Hello everyone, today's video is about comprehensive mitochondrial support. As per usual, nothing I'm saying should be construed as medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. If you need medical advice, please talk to your healthcare provider to get that advice. And if at some point you wouldn't mind taking a quick moment to please like, share, subscribe, and or post a quick comment on the video, I'd really appreciate it. So thanks in advance for taking a second to do that. So in many of my videos, I talk about comprehensive mitochondrial support, and there's just been a few comments in the comment section lately asking about, like, what does that mean? What are some examples, like some kind of case reports of it helping people, and just kind of asking for some clarification on that. So I have posted videos about this before, so for folks who have been following me for a while, forgive me for the repetition that's going to be in this video, but I will try to include a couple of clinical pearls that maybe would be novel. So if you're interested in comprehensive mitochondrial support, please listen on or watch on. So when I say comprehensive mitochondrial support, what I mean by that is in contrast to what I call partial mitochondrial support. So virtually every supplement company out there has a mitochondrial support supplement nowadays, which I love from the point of view that there's so much more attention being put on the mitochondria now. Flashback maybe like 10 years ago anyways, there were a handful of supplements that were called mitochondrial support something, or like they had that was the intention of the supplement. Nowadays they're much more common, and there's just a lot more talk about how important the mitochondria are, and that is true for health across the board, but particularly true for folks who are dealing with complex chronic health issues. So I'm happy that there's more attention being put on the mitochondria, but what I'm less thrilled with is that when you actually look at the composition of a lot of these partial mitochondrial supports, they are not very comprehensive. The mitochondria need a lot of different ingredients in order to work properly, a lot of different compounds, substrates and coenzyme or cofactors and things like that. And they also need to receive those supplements in appreciable dosages. So for example, I'm not going to name any names here, don't want to throw any companies under the bus, but there are mitochondrial support formulas where you look at the ingredient list and it's like, whatever, something, the name of the product is something about supporting the mitochondria. And then you look at the ingredient list and there's maybe 500 milligrams of N-acetylcysteine, maybe 100 milligrams of coenzyme Q10, maybe 700 milligrams of carnitine, maybe they'll throw in some PQQ for good measure, and like that's the supplement. And it's like, yes, those are all things that are important for the mitochondria, but that is not going to comprehensively support the mitochondria. They need so many other things over and above that. And as much as that might sound like, sort of a, just a out in left field example, there are a lot of examples of other mitochondrial support products that are not much better than that. Now, there are some that come a lot closer to the mark. I still would call them partial, but they have a lot more, they have many more ingredients in there than that, and the dosages look better. So there are a couple of companies that make pretty decent mitochondrial support products, but in my opinion, none of them are as good as what I refer to as comprehensive mitochondrial support. So the reason that I am somewhat opinionated about this topic is because for years there were a few different mitochondrial supports that I had tried with my patients, and I just rarely, if ever, saw them move the needle at all. I thought like, oh, I guess my patients just don't benefit from mitochondrial support. But when I started using comprehensive mitochondrial support, I saw that move the needle in many cases, and continue to see it move the needle in many cases to this day. So I've been using this particular formula for probably 5-ish years, maybe 6 years now. I can't really remember exactly because time goes by so fast. But anyways, it's been quite a while, and nothing has supplanted it in terms of efficacy for boosting up mitochondrial function. How do we know it's working? Well, the mitochondria make virtually all of the energy for the cells. So when a patient starts taking this formula and they say, I have more energy, I have more get up and go, my exercise recovery is better, I have less brain fog, any or all of the above, that tells me that this is working to help support the mitochondria. So I'll just maybe share a couple of little clinical pearls, again, just to make it interesting for folks who already have heard me talk about this. And also there was a comment asking about, what are some examples of folks, benefiting from this approach. So, in my practice, the vast majority of my patients are dealing with complex chronic health issues like chronic infections, mold, chronic digestive issues, etc., autoimmune conditions, neurodegenerative conditions, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, etc. So fatigue is hands down the most common symptom of all of my patients across the board. And so in that patient population, what I found is that mitochondrial support is either well, okay, it's oftentimes either a helpful tool to boost up energy levels at least a bit while we're waiting for our mold detox, our antimicrobial protocol, our heavy metal detox, our SIBO protocol, whatever it is, to start working. So let's say there's a patient, they've got SIBO, lots of digestive issues, and they've got really low energy levels. It can take a while to get rid of SIBO, especially if there are biofilms or the patient's a little bit more sensitive to things, or maybe there's some concomitant issues like yeast or LIBO or things like that going on. So it might be several months potentially to get that patient fully on track. And in the meantime, in those cases, there's a very good chance that their energy levels are going to improve once their gut's feeling better, because they're likely going to be absorbing their nutrients better. They're less inflamed. Their body's not, quote unquote, wasting energy, putting out fires, left, right, and center. So in many of those cases, indeed, the patient's energy does get better as their gut is healing and improving. But sometimes it can take a few months to get them to that point where their energy is improving, and sometimes their energy is really low. So we might start them on mitochondrial support sooner shortly out of the gate, once they've started their protocol working on the SIBO, to try to see their energy improve. So in cases like that, it's very rare actually to see someone go from, say, like maybe a 3 or 4 out of 10 energy all the way to a 10 out of 10 with mitochondrial support, but they may go from, say, a 3 or 4 out of 10 to maybe a 5 or a 6 out of 10, which can make a big difference. Depending on the numbers, that could be a 50% improvement in energy, relative to where it was. So in cases like, and I could say the exact same thing about patients who are dealing with mold or Lyme or other types of conditions. So we can use it kind of early in their treatment protocol to try to boost up their energy somewhat. Now, there's going to be the odd case where, yes, we do see them go from like a 2 out of 10 to a 7 out of 10 with mitochondrial support pretty quickly. That does happen, but usually I'm looking for anywhere from, a 1 to 2 point increase on a 10-point scale if we bring it in early in the treatment protocol. I have a transparent conversation with the patient at that, about it, saying that I'm not expecting this to work miracles for you, but if we get the ball rolling with this now, we'll hopefully see your energy improving somewhat, and then hopefully it'll just continue to improve faster, having those mitochondrial nutrients on board. The other way that I'll bring mitochondrial support into the picture is as more of like a finishing touch on a case. So patients who have, say, already been working with their antimicrobial protocol, anti-mold protocol, whatever it happens to be, for say several months, and they've improved and their pain's doing a lot better, their neurological symptoms are doing better, energy's been improving, but maybe they're up to, like, say, the 5 out of 10, but their energy's kind of like the horse is sauntering towards the finish line. It's taking quite a while to get there with their energy levels. That'll be a time where mitochondrial support can really shine in a lot of cases, because we'll oftentimes see a bigger jump in energy faster because we've already done all the background work. We're just now needing to give the mitochondria what they need to get the energy levels boosted up at that point, or again, helping with the post-exertional malaise, or their stamina, or their brain fog, or what have you, anything that's related to suboptimal levels of energy in the cells. So in those cases, we can see much bigger jumps, faster jumps with that, maybe going from a 5 out of 10 to like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 in a relatively short period of time. The other group of folks that can benefit from mitochondrial support, in my experience, are folks who are already feeling good, but they are just maybe overstressed, a little bit too busy, burning the candle at both ends, that type of thing. I'm one of those patients, too busy, lots of things going on in my life, try to take good care of myself, but lots of patients, I have 3 kids, side projects, etc. So I take my mitochondrial support every day. I don't take a full dose. I just take a teaspoon a day, 5 on weekdays, not on the weekends, even though my kids keep me busier than my patients do, but I just take it as a maintenance dose, and I find that keeps my energy at 9, 10 out of 10, just all the time. When I run out of it, then I start to notice starting to yawn mid-afternoon, starting to just feel a little bit more draggy. It's like, oh, right, I gotta get another bottle of mitochondrial support. I gotta start taking it again. So I've noticed that pattern probably 5 or 6 times since I've been taking it over the last 4 or 5 years, however long I've been on it for. For folks who are just generally healthy, because again, most of my patients are dealing with complex chronic health issues, but I do have some patients who come in, typically family members of the patients who are dealing with a lot of health issues. I'm feeling good in general, but I'm kind of draggy, or maybe having burnout, caregiver fatigue, or maybe they're biohackers and they're just wanting to do brain mapping and neurofeedback, and they, anyways, family on social media, and to know that I dabble in things like methylene blue and different things like that. So long and short of it is folks who are generally healthy but just feel like they need a boost, the mitochondrial support can be really helpful for them too. So let's see, what else do I want to say here? So with the, trying to think what other questions there were. Yeah, so I guess with the mitochondrial support, just to talk a little bit more about what that comprehensive support actually looks like in terms of the formulation. So with comprehensive mitochondrial support, it was designed to be taken with a high potency multi-nutrient at the same time. So again, the mitochondria need lots of different ingredients, ballpark like about, 20 to 25 different ingredients that we're able to supplement with. There's other things that they need that we just don't have access to in terms of supplements, but about 20 to 25 things that they that we can supplement with. And so the mitochondrial support formula has 15 of those ingredients. The comprehensive multi-nutrient, the high potency multi-nutrient, has all the little kind of tiny doses of other things that are needed for the mitochondria. So for example, in the comprehensive mitochondrial support or in the product that is called mitochondrial support formula, it's made by a company called Signature Supplements in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. I have no financial affiliation with them. They're just the ones that make it. And in that formula, there's a robust dose of taurine, of proline, of like acetyl L-carnitine. There's coenzyme Q10 in there. There's resveratrol in there, which is not necessary for mitochondrial support, but it's just involved in helping to stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis. It's involved in helping to mitigate free radical activity inside of mitochondria. There's mixed tocopherols, mixed tocotrienols. There's vitamin C. There's manganese. What am I missing here? There's a particularly high dose of benphthiamine, which is a fat-soluble form of vitamin B1. A particularly high dose of vitamin B2, vitamin B3 in the form of niacinamide. There is vitamin B5 in there at a particularly high dose. I think that's everything. I might have missed one, but that's, I think, oh, and there's a fairly robust dose of zinc in there as well. So that's the mitochondrial support formula, which gives you, 15 of those crucial ingredients at robust dosages, but then it's paired with the multi-nutrient that will give, bring to the table methylfolate, methyl B12, vitamin B6, calcium, magnesium, vitamin D. That might be the whole list. So anyways, I don't have the list in front of me, but that should be about pretty much the whole list of what those mitochondria need that is not present in the mitochondrial support powder itself. So between the high potency multi-nutrient and the mitochondrial support formula, it clinically and on paper covers all the bases for the mitochondria in the majority of cases. There are a few other things the mitochondria need, like iron. If someone's iron deficient, they're going to need to take an iron supplement or get iron some other way in order to keep their iron levels up. If a patient is really like hypoxic because they have breathing issues or for some other reason, like they're going to need to do something to get more oxygen into their system, maybe ozone therapy, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or fix the underlying lung issue, hopefully if it's a fixable issue. Mitochondria need, sometimes taking a ribose supplement can be helpful. Sometimes a creatine supplement can be helpful. There are phospholipids can be helpful. So there are other things that the mitochondria might need in some cases, but the multi-nutrient and the mitochondrial support powder, will cover the bases for the vast majority of patients in my experience. Sometimes they might need methylene blue, they might need other things anyways, it's a whole complex issue, I suppose. There could be hormonal imbalances, lots of things that go into like what the mitochondria need, but where the topic of the video is about the comprehensive mitochondrial support on a supplemental level, at least those are kind of the core things. So I hope that covered the bases. If there are other questions about this, I can obviously talk about mitochondria for long swaths of time. I will also just mention here, if you're particularly interested in this topic and you would like to learn more about it at no cost to you, I do have a course that I put together for patients and or their caregivers. It's called Overcoming Chronic Illness, and if you sign up for my newsletter, you get access to the first 2 modules of that course for free. There's kind of an introductory module, and then there is a mitochondrial module in that, so that is free. So if you want to hear me yap about this topic for, I think it's like 2 hours or something like that, you're more than welcome to access that for free. Just sign up for my newsletter. There's a link in the video description below, which I always take weeks to actually add. So if you just go to a previous video on my YouTube channel or whatever social media platform you're watching this on, then you can find the link there, or my link tree on my Instagram or whatnot. So I get into all this in a lot of detail, and that's available if you're interested. So hope this was of interest. If you have any comments or questions on mitochondria or anything else, just leave them in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer as soon as I can.